Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Norma Juarez. I am a proud alumna and staff member in UNC's Alumni Relations Office. Thank you all for joining us today for the Alumni Career Panel, Helping Professions. Today, we will learn from and connect with fellow UNC Bears working in support of people in community. Before I introduce you to our panelists, I would like to share a couple of housekeeping items. This event is being recorded and will be available on demand in the next couple of days on the alumni website, and I will be sharing the website in the chat, so make sure to enable your chat. If you would like to reach out to our panelists after the event to start building your network, I will provide their contact information in the chat as well. And lastly, I will go off of screen after introductions so that you all can focus your attention on our panelists, and I will return shortly before the event concludes to provide a closing statement. As we highlight the careers of these alumni, I invite students, fellow staff and faculty to ask questions through the Q&A feature. Now, please help me welcome our panelists. Panelists, please introduce yourself by stating your name, title, company, UNC degree, and by telling us a little bit about yourself. Tatum, we will start with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tatum Binky. I am currently living in New York City, working for an organization called Kids in the Game. It's a sports-based youth development organization that works with about 25,000 kids across all 5 boroughs. I'm a UNC alum, graduating in 2013 with my bachelor's degree and 2015 with my master's degree. Super excited to be here and chat with all of you.
Thank you. Danya?
Hi, everybody. My name is Danya Carroll. I am White Mountain Apache and Navajo from Arizona. And I graduated from UNC in 2013 in the MPH Community Health Education Program. And currently I'm a project director with the White Mountain Apache Tribe.
Thank you. Suli.
Hi, everyone. I'm Suli Coronado. I graduated from UNC back in 2014 with a special education degree, K-12. I'm currently working at the Denver Indian Center as a Native Workforce Career Guidance Specialist. So I assist the Native community with career and educational goals.
Thank you. Cece?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cece Moreno. I'm the Workforce Deputy Director at Employment Services of Weld County. I graduated from UNC in winter of '05 with a bachelor's in communication studies. I also earned a micromaster's in social work later on from the University of Michigan. And I'm just happy to be here with you today.
Thank you. Now I will hand it over to Stephanie Torres, who will be our moderator this afternoon. Stephanie?
Hi, Stephanie Torres, AVP for Student Academic Success. And I have 2 degrees here. I have to look at the screen almost to remind myself. Class of 95, I took 5 years to finish my bachelor's, and that is in sociology with a minor in Spanish. And then I have master's from UNC in educational leadership and policy studies. And then I am working on a PhD from Colorado State University. So with that, I think we'll get going on our questions for today. And I believe that someone is monitoring the chat for us as well. Okay, so according to a web definition, a helping profession is a profession that nurtures the growth of or addresses the problems of a person's physical, psychological, intellectual, emotional, or spiritual well-being. What does it mean to you to be in a helping profession, and how do you help fellow humans in your work? Danya?
Well, I think as an Indigenous woman, I was always raised to help those around me. So I think I kind of naturally gravitated toward a field that where I could help my people and my tribes. And so my field is public health and Indigenous health. To take it a step further, and I think that field in general, it focuses on an individual holistically, and then of course as Indigenous people, we always think about our health and well-being from a holistic perspective. So the work I do now Well, I guess the past several years since I graduated from UNC, I've been working with tribal communities on food sovereignty and food systems development issues, because access to healthy foods is a public health issue within our communities. And we see that with high rates of different chronic diseases that impact our people. And with the work I do, we have a tribally operated farm here, and our goal is to really restore that personal and cultural health to our people. And the population that we serve really varies from children all the way to our elders. So those are the people I serve on a daily basis, and I think we do that in different ways. We're always looking to build capacity within our communities to address our own issues, because we know that like before reservations were established, our people were healthy and our diets were healthy, and so it's just kind of returning to those teachings and that lifestyle, and yeah, so just making healthier choices available for American Indian populations, whether that's different types of or choices to help for healthier foods and quality of life, and I think overall well-being. So yeah, I think in short, I pretty much serve my people, and I think we're always taught that in a way to serve our people in the future, and yeah, so I think I always kind of had that in mind, even when I was at UNC, to come back home and hopefully make some type of difference. And yeah, I think public health is a great example of a helping profession.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And in service to others really stands out in what you shared, and powerful about making a difference. I think that's really important. Suli, do you want to go next?
Sure. For me, a helping profession or working in the helping profession basically comes down to being that person that's going to be there for those individuals, in my case, my participants in the workforce program. Being that listener, letting them talk to you, tell you what's great and what's a barrier to them, letting them vent, tell you what their situation is. And then, after they're done with that, just making sure that I'm there, not to advise them, but more to help them create those life, career, and educational goals. So it's, again, being in that helping profession is listening to them and assisting them, supporting them with what they may need. So how do I help them? I basically sit down with my participants. We, like I said, we are a Native workforce program, so we work with the American Indian population. So we sit down, we do intakes, we discuss what are their goals, help them create those short-term and long-term goals. After creating those goals, we can see how we as the workforce can assist them financially, mentally. So we help them with sometimes transportation, childcare, work clothes, work boots, and for education, we then go as far as assisting them with financially with their tuition, because I know some of them have those huge dreams and goals of becoming teacher or nurse. So my job is to help them reach those goals.
I'm going to have to practice my mute. I love the idea of listening and being a helping person that just assists them in reaching what they want to reach. Thank you. Cece, could you share with us your perspective?
Yeah, so like the others have said, it's super important to me to give back to my community. I'm Weld County through and through, born, raised, never left. I grew up in a really small town here. My graduating class was 103 of us, and everyone knew everyone. So we kind of had that mindset that, our wealth is in our relationships and helping one another. And so that has carried on throughout my life and having that servant heart. So for me, being in that helping profession has really helped me be that instrument of peace for other people, because I know those backgrounds. I know them all too well. I've been here. I know a lot of people because I'm just a Weld County native. Through my profession, though, my team and I really just help provide hope and despair and, show that light in the darkness for them. Because a lot of the people we serve are unemployed, they're underemployed, they're high school dropouts. They're on some type of public assistance. And so what we do is we have access to federal and state dollars that allow us to help them enter or return back into the workforce, gain that self-sufficiency. We provide short-term training, certifications, work-based learning opportunities, such as like work experience. This is also known as an internship, on-the-job training, or registered apprenticeships. And, we do have program-specific eligibility criteria, but like what's so wonderful is that we have so many dollars that we are able to always make people eligible for our programs. And for instance, like right now, because of the pandemic, we have $1.4 million to help people reskill, upskill, and new skill. And this is in addition to another $3 million that I can dive into deeper if someone wants to contact me about that. But there are workforce centers across America, also known as American Job Centers, that have this funding. And I know, I'm just happy to serve my community with it.
I don't know who else might be taking notes, but I'm writing down things as I listen to each of you. And I love this idea of wealth in our relationships. That's really powerful, Cece. Thank you. I'm next in terms of sharing. And so I will say that my career here at UNC, I've worked here for 25 plus years. I worked in a federal grant program called the Center for Human Enrichment. It's a student support services program that focuses on first generation limited income students and as first in their family to go to college, providing a full slate of services to help them continue. And then over the years, over the last 25 years, I've had opportunities to move into different positions while still carrying with me the heart and spirit of the Center for Human Enrichment and the commitment to all students being successful. And so I still work with that program among others. And I would say I don't have as much direct interaction with students as I had in my early career, but what gets me up in the morning is my stand is, and I'm committed to being of service to students, faculty, and staff, and the success of our institution and them individually. And so just thinking about places and spaces where I can speak up where maybe they're not at the table is something that I try to do. And that, I guess, as I've listened to others, that idea of being in service to, that's the place and space that I'm in service to people now. Tatum, I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, so much of my day-to-day is about direct service. We're working with kids, we are in schools, we're out of schools, really any service that we can provide to kids we're doing. And I think that on the surface level is what wakes me up in the morning, keeps me up at night. But I think being part of a helping profession is not just thinking about that immediate, but is really thinking about the systematic issues that is why those services are necessary. I think a really interesting topic is, should nonprofits exist? If the government is working for all people, should these services really be necessary? Because why the kids that I work with need these services is because of food and housing insecurities. It's because of there's not affordable childcare. It's because the minimum wage hasn't been raised in 30 years. So I think for me, it's constantly reminding myself of the systematic injustices that are creating this wonderful job that I have. And I'm only doing my job if I'm taking care of both sides, if I'm taking care of the immediate, but always thinking about what can I do at the systematic level.
I saw a lot of heads nodding. That's so powerful to think about. In some ways, we want to work ourselves out of a job when we're in those sort of job fields that we're filling in a gap. And so that's really powerful, Tatum. Thank you so much. I want to move to the second question. What are common career paths in your field of helping professions, and what are the most effective strategies for seeking a position in this field? And if you could be specific about any steps that you would recommend to the students as they prepare to enter that particular field. And we'll start with Suli.
So in regards of the common career paths for, I guess, where I'm at now, well, I mentioned this, my degree is in special education. I was in that industry or in that field for about 2 years before I was like, you know what, I learned a lot more, a variety of different skills through my experience at UNC, through my experience at work. So some of the other common career paths that I could pursue as well, or are part of the helping profession, could be as simple as, you know, a teacher, counselor, advisor, human services, an advisor, an advocate. So those are some of the more common career paths for me. In regards of what strategies or what could help, you know, get to that position or that field, I think is start networking. You know, you got to make sure you start networking while you're in school, while you're at your, for example, student teaching. Network with those people around you at the, you know, staff, faculty over at UNC. Once you have that line of communication and networking, you can go far. So that's one of the strategies that I would recommend that you take. Networking, feeling comfortable and confident with yourself to be able to meet those individuals. And yeah, I guess that would be for my answer. I don't know if there's a part of it that I missed.
Well, Suli, I'd be curious to understand how you went, how did you find out about the position that you have now from being in special ed?
Yeah, so I am originally from California. So as soon as I graduated UNC, I graduated December, January, I was already in California. I got a co-teaching position over there for a autism program. It's called Spectrum. You know, that was fun, but I miss family. I'm really close to my family. So I moved back to Colorado and I was just job searching, and I put some of my skills on Indeed and see what would pop up. I also did Career One Stop, which is something that we use with our participants. And it actually gave me some perspective and an open mind of like, hey, maybe you can be an advisor, maybe you can be a counselor and get training. So then I got into career services with Lincoln Tech. So still at a technical school, but I guided them towards their career path, resume writing. So I was there and I really, really enjoyed it. I loved it. But my heart belonged, I think, working for a nonprofit. So I was like, I want to do this job, but I want to do it for a nonprofit. It's much more rewarding for me. And I guess I saw the need. So just with the part of networking with previous colleagues, you know, I reached out and we talked about it, and there was a position open. So I said, I don't really know very much about the Native culture, but I would love to learn about it. And each day I learned something new. So using Career One Stop and using my networking, I was able to really see where I belonged and what skills I can transfer. That's how I got where I'm at now.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So I think you also provided a wonderful example of what it means to network. So that's great. Let's see, Cece, do you want to share your perspective?
Yeah, so regarding specific steps, to be honest, human services was never on my radar. That wasn't something I was into. While I was in college, I was working full time, and I thought I was actually in the career that I wanted, and that actually didn't pan out for me. So I entered this profession as a temporary employee for extended unemployment compensation, which ironically, I was on unemployment at that time. So I didn't even know the Workforce Center existed. So I really just came in at the ground level. Didn't have my education in human services or social work. And many of our staff here actually don't. Like a lot of us earn our positions like entry-level positions and then gain the skills and competencies while we're here. And I mean, it goes alongside our clients as well, because like Sully said, like we do career one-stop as well. We can do the test of a basic education, basic education, other things like they're called prove-its, just to kind of just go over your skills. And so all of us do that here. And so although, you know, a degree is helpful, it's helped me tremendously, I tend to lean towards just skills and competencies again. And that's also because that's what our participants are doing as well. That they're building on that. Not all of them even have a GED or a high school diploma. So that's that part for, I'm trying to make sure I answer all your questions. But yeah, speaking from my own experience, I've held 6 roles in the last 9 years here at Employment Services. And my strategy, which I believe any person can use, you know, bits and pieces of it, was really just to go in here, understand a little bit of everything, learn from our seasoned employees, find what really filled my cup and what I excelled at, and then, you know, really showed my value and showed that, you know, I am valuable as this employee because I know all of this information. So by having that mindset, you know, I went from the extended unemployment compensation to becoming a case manager, to becoming the support specialist who works with our workforce development board and worked directly under the division head, which was now known as the director. And then natural progression took me to a supervisor, then a manager, and then brought me here to this role. And as a deputy director, I don't have as much hands on participants, but like Tatum said, it's a systematic thing. Now I'm on this side of the fence where I'm able to really look at rules, regulations, budgets, and know that what I'm doing is also affecting them in one way or another, and that I'm also making that difference.
Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. It looks like it's my turn again, and now I have to think about the path. I have a degree in sociology, and I started my work and exposure to what we call TRIO programs, which focus, as I said, the Center for Human Enrichment focuses on first generation college students. And I started working for one as an internship while I was pursuing my sociology degree. And so I worked in the schools, in the high schools with the talent search program, and I loved it. And so all that I wanted to do was continue to work in that kind of advisor capacity, and an opportunity opened up for me in the world of networking, sharing what you're interested in with people who are in similar fields. They have you then top of mind, and I was invited to come to UNC after I graduated to work as an advisor in the Center for Human Enrichment. And so similar to Cece, I worked my way up. I had just different opportunities. I've worked in every department that was in the Center for Human Enrichment. There were some opportunities to kind of expand the good work that we do in CHE and how might that be applied to the broader campus. So when we're thinking about systems, do we want to just continue to have a special externally funded program that makes sure that our first generation students are successful, that's where the money comes from for tutoring and things, or how might we transfer that into the larger campus? And so there are things that are here at UNC that started in the Center for Human Enrichment, kind of in a laboratory setting, that were then systematized and expanded to the larger campus, a few things. And so that's been a great opportunity for me. And I think that in terms of common career paths, a lot of people will go into higher education as a degree or student affairs as a degree. I can tell you, while Sully was there, we had our head of our advising area has a master's in public health, Julie. And she was phenomenal. There's no one like Julie in terms of that work. And so I think there's a lot of different majors that can get you into a helping profession. I think the other important thing that I've heard from some of you who've already had a chance to speak is What you learn in terms of skills and competencies in your job are also as equally, if not more important, in terms of developing yourself. When we finish here with our bachelor's, there's still more to learn. So that whole idea of lifelong learning is real. And the more you're open to that, I think the richer the experience is in your job experience. Tatum.
Yeah, I think my journey into my current role is a little unconventional. My bachelor's degree at UNC is in sports and exercise science. So pretty far away from what I do currently. But I think what was my driving factor is I was passionate about two things. I was passionate about sports and I was passionate about helping people. So my entire journey was like, how can I create a role or find a job that is combining those two things? And, I had to move from Colorado to New York City to find it. But now that I'm here, I recognize how lucky I am to be in this position. When I first arrived in New York City, I've been here for 5 years. We were very much a startup. So blessing and a curse on that. So my role in the nonprofit is I've done everything. I've done development, I've done grant writing, I've done program management, I've done monitoring and evaluation. The blessing of that is that all of those skills I've really developed. The curse of that is that it leads to a little bit of burnout because one person cannot do all of those things. So I think my advice is, I have 3 pieces of advice. One is don't be afraid of fundraising. I think that a lot of people, that's like not what their first inclination is to do in the nonprofit world, because asking people for money is awkward and it's uncomfortable. But if you're passionate about what you do, it really is just about talking about it and getting other people excited about the work you do. And if you can get into fundraising, it's like the golden ticket to what roles that you want. I think the second piece of advice is don't just look at nonprofits. There's this whole movement of B corporations, certified B Corps, which those are organizations across the country, across the world actually, that are meeting the highest standard, that they care about the social good over they care about their profit. So New Belgium and Fort Collins is one of them. So expand your reach. There are for-profit businesses that are in the helping profession realm. And then I think the third one I touched on a little bit is just make sure that you're passionate about what you're doing. I think one of our questions later on is about burnout. If you have that passion for what you're doing and you can really cultivate your ideas and your thoughts and be part of the process, being in a helping profession is the most rewarding thing.
Thank you for that. And I learned about B corporations. I didn't realize that New Belgium was classified as that. But they do have a big giving back arm of their enterprise. Danya, can you share with us your perspective?
I guess I've been fortunate to kind of experience different sectors of public health, and right out of grad school, I came back and I got a research coordinator position in sorry. And so I got a lot of experience with, research and program management, engaging communities in different public health programs with schools, but also the community. And after that, I went to another position out in New Mexico where I worked more with the Navajo Nation, which is my other tribe, and that was really eye-opening because that was a nonprofit also, and so we pretty much covered the entire Navajo Nation, which is in 3 states, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. But yeah, so, and then my position now is more of like working at the tribal level. So yeah, I think that's been really helpful to see the different perspectives and how it all works, because I think often in public health, but also just within tribes, I think often different organizations work in silos, even though we're all working towards the same goal. Yeah, I guess that's been kind of my journey, going from like coordinator, moving to manager, and then right now director position. And yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot of different things. Some things they don't teach you in school, like supervising and management. But I think I guess the advice part, with my journey, I think the finding like different experiences when I was in school to do like internships and fellowships was really helpful. And I was able to identify like different mentors in those places and kind of expanding my network. And yeah, so I think any type of experiences is great, because that could lead you to future opportunities. And then I think connecting with people that you eventually want to do their jobs. You think what they're doing is really awesome. I know I've been able to meet a lot of great people working in Indigenous health that they're still my mentors, and really keeping those relationships going. And yeah, so I think that's kind of, those are my experiences with the career paths. And yeah, I think hopefully I've answered the question.
You have, and the piece about mentoring is really powerful. And I think we might get more into some of what you've all shared so far into the next question as well. Because I can see as you're talking about, you're reflecting on your own education. And so the next question is about reflecting on your education you received from UNC. What learning or experiences have been the most useful to you in your profession? So we'll start with Cece.
This is a really excellent question. I think that UNC really just taught me that I need, just keep going. Like, things may happen, but you have to keep going. When I was in high school, I took advantage of the Ames Community College program, where you can go ahead and get some college credits. So my full intent was to transfer those to UNC, graduate in 3 years, go into business, right? So I actually failed calculus, and I ended up having to do grade forgiveness. And when I got back, I got a C. So I was like, yeah, maybe business isn't for me. Like, I don't know that I could do stats or anything else after that. So I went completely opposite, and I did journalism and mass communications. And then it turns out news writing wasn't my thing either. And so here I was, full-time student, full-time employee, going over my transcripts and going, okay, how many credits do I have so that I could still try and graduate in 3 years? And I didn't have enough. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to graduate in 3.5, adjusted my goal. And then somewhere along the line, I also thought, maybe I can go to law school later. And so I enrolled in 18 credits, so 6 classes, all in legal studies in the same semester. And I do not recommend that for anyone. It was intense. And after that, I was like, yep, not going to law school either. So really, that's a long way of saying that, the adversity that I went through has really built me to who I am today, and why I was able to just grow within every position that I had. And working here in government, the legal studies minor actually gave me that foundation that I really needed. I didn't know it, obviously, at the time, but going through local, state, federal rules, regulations, laws, now from college, referring back to that, I knew how to read them. I understood them a little bit better. Looking between, the black and white, is there a little bit of gray sometimes? And I didn't know back then, but that was what was going to be a passion for me. And so again, just if I had not gone through multiple issues, with my degree, that wouldn't have given me who I am today.
I think it's so helpful to hear, as someone who works at the university with and has worked with students, it's so helpful, CC, to hear that it's not just a direct path to something, that trial and error. It's sometimes figuring out what you love is figuring out what you don't want to do. And so really powerful share. I haven't left UNC, so sometimes it feels like this kind of question is funny because I have such a privilege to still be here after so many years. And I think what has been most powerful for me, if I look back, are being a yes to opportunities that other people offer me. There was someone who said, you should study abroad. And I said, I don't know how I'd pay for that. My parents didn't have stable employment. We, in the K through 12 system, I was on free and reduced lunch, but somebody said, I'll help you with that. It's an important experience. They helped me figure out the finances, introduced me to the director of financial aid. That was transformational for me, who hadn't traveled any, to be in another country and to just have that kind of experience. I wasn't even, I have a minor in Spanish because I studied abroad with friends who were studying abroad, not because I was pursuing a minor in Spanish. So I did that backwards. It wasn't as though that was intentional, but has been a gift. Also, working on campus was pretty powerful for me. I think that's where my helping profession kind of interest started, because I selected jobs where I was in service to others. So I worked in our tutoring center. I worked as an advisor, so I had some of those experiences. I don't want to take too much time to share my experience because I'd like to let our other panelists speak. And so I'm going to hand it off to Tatum.
Yeah, first off, I just had the most amazing experience at UNC. I was a student athlete, so I felt I got that experience on top of a top-notch educational experience. And I think between those two, the biggest thing that I gained from high school and college is just confidence, and that confidence to really advocate for myself. I was in a degree, sports and exercise science, that I liked, but I didn't see my future path going that way. And, at the end of that degree, you have to do an internship, and most people do it at like a physical therapy place or a hospital. And I just didn't see that aligning with what my goals were. So I really advocated for myself of like, no, I have these goals. I want to go to grad school in this field. Is there any way that my internship could be a little less loosely tied to my undergrad degree? And, I had great professors also advocating for myself, and that ended up working out. And I did my internship in the athletic department in the Student Athlete Academic Success Center, which is so funny now, how many years did I graduate? 8 years now, good Lord. I run a program in New York City that is mirrored after that experience in the Student Athlete Academic Success Center. So I think that's the biggest thing, is let your gut and your passions really drive what you want to do, and don't get too caught up in what your class schedule tells you that you're supposed to do at the end of it. All of these experiences add up to hopefully get you to your dream job.
Thank you, Tatum. That's great. The self-advocacy, like when you know in your heart what it is that's going to be a good fit, and speaking up is really powerful. Who's next? Danya, could you share with us your perspective on this question?
For me, I think my experience at UNC was really great. I really can't complain. I think the 2 years I was there with the community health program really helped to shape the person I am today. And yeah, I think just the program was really close knit and supportive. The faculty were really supportive and great, and I still keep in touch with most of them. And then our cohort, we really had a great cohort and really got to know different people from different walks of life. And yeah, and then I think just the curriculum was great. It really built that foundation for me is public health, and I think I definitely use a lot of the things that I learned there. And yeah, so I think it just, my experiences really strengthened my skill sets and knowledge, and kind of helped to pave, I guess, the path I'm on today. And then I think in a way it also like helped me to see that I could become a leader in this field, even though sometimes you're like, you want me to be a leader? But others see that potential in you, and I think I definitely got that UNC. And yeah, so I think just connections, building those relationships with different people, colleagues. I think that's really awesome, really helpful and great. And if you can find programs like that, that really help you find your passion and drive, and really help you to thrive after your education. I think that's kind of what I took away from UNC. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Yeah, that you came from a fantastic program. I love the faculty in that department. I'm going to shift to question number 4 for those who are following along. The questions are in the chat. Panelists, as you have continued to serve a more diverse client or constituent base, how has your work changed, or what innovations have there been in your field of work? And we'll start with me, I guess. And so this is the funny part. So I can tell you that when I started in this field, one, I will share with you, I brought a typewriter to college. So then by the time I graduated, we were just starting to use computers beyond the information kind of processing. We called them mainframes, and then we had just switched to email. So I can tell you, as a full-time worker, I would send an email and I'd run to my colleague's office and we'd see it show up. So technology and innovations, there's a lot that happened during my early parts of my career in rapid form, because we didn't have some of the things that are just so commonplace now. I can also say that the other thing that's changed is that a lot of what we thought we knew about students was didn't have the kind of fast-paced data. We're overloaded, I think, in all of our professions now with a lot of data, and figuring out then what to do with that and how to act on it. And before, the sources of data weren't as deep, or it took longer to kind of bring it together. And so there's a lot more data available. And so that's been, I think, one of the biggest changes, is how to sift through that information in meaningful ways and take action, because there's a lot more information for me as a worker, for the people that I support. And then the bigger part is how to act on that. Tatum, could you answer the question about diverse constituent base? I've always worked, I didn't answer that, but I've always worked and focused on communities that are at promise, that might be underrepresented in my spaces. So I didn't have as much to speak about that. But if you could speak to that, and then also how your work has changed or any innovations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to start with the second question of how my workspace has changed, is the biggest thing is that it now exists. So I'm in the sports-based youth development field. So I'm sure majority of people on this call grew up as a kid playing some sport, whether they wanted to be in it or their parents just put them in it. That is different than what I do. What I do is really take vulnerable populations and use sport as the vehicle to learn life's greatest lessons, to provide access to quality education, and to gain the social and emotional skills that they might not be getting at home, or they might not be getting at school. We just happened to do it through sports programs. 20 years ago, were the good coaches across the country doing this? Sure. But was it a formalized niche of the market? Not necessarily. So I think that's the biggest change. And then in terms of diversity, I don't look like the participants that we serve, to be very transparent. I am white. I grew up in Nevada, and I'm working with youth that are primarily Black and brown growing up in New York City. So I think, the biggest thing for me was because I was coming into a community, I could not project my own experiences on our participants. Just because we had sports as a common denominator, that didn't mean anything, because I couldn't look at our kids and say, why are you trying harder? Why are you having a bad attitude? Because I didn't understand what it was like to grow up in New York City. The amount of stimulus that kids have in New York City is just unbelievable. Everything is difficult. I mean, the first time I went to a youth basketball game, there was a pole in the middle of the basketball court. They don't even have space. So everything is just a little bit harder here. So I owed it to the community that I serve to learn about the community and understand that I'm never going to understand. And that is the common denominator. It's not sports. It's not the work that I do. It's that we are all people, and I need to treat you as an individual, not as a projection of myself.
Thank you, Tatum. Danya?
Well, I guess the population I mainly serve is Indigenous populations, but there is great diversity in that. Different tribes all tribes are different. Sometimes they could be generalized, but in reality, they're not all the same. But I think, it's helpful that, I'm from these populations, and actually I'm also working on a PhD in Indigenous health through the University of North Dakota. And I guess that's a pretty big innovative program in this area with public health. I think it might be the first in the US. And that type of program, it's pretty important because it is specific to the needs of Indigenous peoples throughout the world, not just the United States. And just being in that program, I've learned about the diversity of the populations that we can serve that are Indigenous. And then I think a big part of, I guess, maybe, I don't know if it's a change but I think Indigenous knowledge is being valued more in the field. And I know in public health, they always talk about evidence-based practices, but one challenge to that is that Indigenous knowledge is evidence-informed practices. So I think that's a really important thing that's happening in the field right now. And then again, just focusing on the holistic view of health, and then lastly, focusing on the strengths of Indigenous communities, because I think often when you hear about, or you read the literature, or you see documentaries about tribal communities, it might often frame them in that deficit lens. And I think our communities, we are tired of that right now at this point. And so I think just in the program that I'm in, there's a big focus on strengths-based approaches. So I think that's a really important thing that's happening now, and how we can use those strengths to address the different social and health issues that we see in Indigenous communities. So
thank you, Danya. the informed practice. That's really interesting to me. I hadn't heard that before. That's great. I'd like us to go to the next question just to keep with our time. We've all seen the burnout that can come from working in any field. How do you tackle burnout that can come from working in helping profession? I think we've all seen those posts about burnout and helping professions. I'm going to start with Cece. I'm going to go a little bit out of order. I'm going to start with Cece since we skipped to the next question, and then Sui.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people who address burnout by exercising, and that is not me. You know, I'm the person who I want to go home, kind of decompress, spend time with my cat, who's the only other female in the household, and you know, just relax. But I do acknowledge, at least here in my human services world, like it is hard. It can be difficult, and you have to know, you know, when to conserve your energy, basically. So if I feel like, you know, I'm depleting, I find those friends who can fill my cup again. Like, I love my family, I love my coworkers, but sometimes you need somebody else that you're not always spending time with. Those people, you know, book a lunch, go have breakfast, just do something. I saw in the chat that somebody asked about the pandemic a little bit. And oddly enough, like right as the pandemic had started, I had actually started taking advantage of my EAP. And that was huge. We were blending a family. That's how it started. But that counselor really helped me out a lot. So knowing that when you're having those issues, to reach out to somebody is really helpful. You know, and I would also just be remiss if I didn't acknowledge like depression and anxiety as well when it comes to burnout. You know, it's real, it's a thing. I'm somebody who suffers from depression as well. And so just making sure that you talk about it with others when you're starting to feel down or burned out. I even go as far with trusted coworkers to say, hey, I just changed my medication. If you notice anything different about me, let me know. And they're the ones who I spend 45 hours a week with, so they're going to see it. And so just really having that communication and being honest with others, I think that that's really key when it comes to burnout, and then just knowing when to conserve your energy.
Thank you. Sui?
Yeah, for me, a lot of what Cece mentioned falls under me, with me as well. I don't work out. I never liked it. But how do I tackle burnout? I like to change the environment, the scenery. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed, I like to, hey, I'm gonna work in the computer lab today. I'm not gonna be in my office. Taking a lot of mental breaks. I know we did that with our students when I was teaching in special education. So I know that worked very well. So I personally like to take my mental breaks as well. Take a walk. Sometimes you can walk around your center, facility, work area. And another thing that Cece mentioned was, you know, seeking that support. Like, make sure you if you're feeling overwhelmed, talk to those colleagues. That's why you have a team. That's why you have colleagues. It was hard for me to, first of all, say no. And it was very hard for me to ask for help. And these last, I want to say maybe 3 years, I've learned that it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to say, you know what, I would love to help you with this, but let me complete this task first. And that kind of alleviates a little bit of the stress in my case. So yeah, I'll keep it short and we can move on to the next person.
Thank you, Sui.
Yeah.
Danya, can you share with us how you manage burnout?
I don't know if I've mastered that. Because right now I'm trying to manage school again and work. But I know like self-care is important. Just taking a step back and reflecting, like everyone mentioned, kind of paying attention to when you're not doing well. And then I've always heard that you have to be well or you have to take care of yourself in order to take care of others. So I've always kind of remembered that as a reminder, if I'm feeling overwhelmed or needing that time out, basically.
Thank you. Tatum?
Yeah, I think Cece, you hit it right on the head with open and honest communication You don't have to handle your burnout by yourself. If you're feeling it, then your coworkers are probably feeling it as well. And then I think the other thing, just from a like a work standpoint, is really understanding the scale of your impact. You're always going to feel like you could be doing more. There's more people to serve. There's more communities that you would like to tap into. So just like a fair warning, looking into these professions, if the ultimate impact is, to serve every child in Los Angeles, is that realistic? Probably not, but we want to increase from 100 kids served to 150 kids served in 2 years. That's a super realistic goal. And if your organization or whoever you choose to work with has those specific goals and those are attainable, that decreases the likelihood of burnout. We all have to be realistic and be really comfortable with that scale of impact. Otherwise, it's going to lead to the entire team burning out. And it's exactly what everyone's been saying. You can't do the work if you're not feeling well and in a good place.
Thank you. I know that we're getting close to the end of the time. So if our panelists have time to answer the question about how your position has changed in the chat, please do that. But for those who have questions maybe that we didn't cover the answer to, please do reach out to us. I think any of the panelists here could tell you and have some thoughts about things pre-pandemic and now where we're at within the pandemic, that maybe their job has changed or they approach things differently. Some things positively, I'm sure, like going forward. And so please ask that. But if panelists, you have some thoughts, you can also put that in the chat. Our last question was about final advice, and I think that you all have given some really good advice through your answers, but if there was any final note that you would like to share, I'll just check in with each of you. Suli, is there anything else that you would like to say?
Very quickly, just keep going, keep swimming like Dora and Nemo. It's hard, but you could do it. There's so many staff and faculty at UNC that can support and help you. Different programs like CHE, Cumbres. There's so many organizations, sororities, fraternities you can be a part of, and they're there to support. So take advantage of it.
Thank you. Cece?
I'm going to relate it to human services. Some of us entered this career thinking that we're going to help and save everyone, and you're not going to be able to do it. And that's okay. You need to know that that's okay. So what I do is I look at the successes that we have and just have that ground me and remind me why I'm doing the work I'm doing today.
Thank you. Tatum.
Yeah, definitely going to sound like a broken record here, but just go for it. Don't limit yourself to what you think this field is. I think it's a lot bigger and a lot more expansive. I mean, even looking just at this panelist group, we may have all gone to UNC, but we're covering a lot of different areas in the helping profession. So start with your passion and see where it leads you.
And Danya, final thoughts?
I think just finding your support network, and then finding your place. I know universities can be pretty huge and overwhelming if you're not used to that type of environment. But yeah, I think just finding your people and that can support you and get you through the tough times and the good times.
Wow, thank you so much. I'm going to hand it back over to Norma. It's been so great to learn from each of you here as panelists, and I feel better about our communities knowing that you're out there sharing yourself and your passion.
Thank you so much. I echo Stephanie. Thank you all for all the work that you're doing in your community and for being here today and sharing your experience and your career path. To everybody who joined us, thank you so much for joining us. And we will have more alumni career panels coming in the spring. So please go to www.unco.edu/alumni/careers to check those out and register for those. Again, thank you so much for being here and have a great evening and go Bears.